Welcome to the How to Adult podcast, where we learn all things adulting. My name is Travis Walker, and I will be your host. And today's topic is all about making the most of your undergraduate career. So many people go into those 4 years, just get the degree, and don't do anything else. But not our guest today. Our guest today is absolutely killing it at Texas State University, and we have a lot to learn from her. So buckle up because we're about to learn how to adult. We are back for another episode of How to Adult, and we've got a very new friend of mine. So, Leah, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. I'm so excited to be here talking to you today. It is a fabulous Friday morning, so everything is going really well right now.
That's incredible. Oh, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Today's topic is a really important one, I think, especially this time of year. We've got a lot of people that are graduating from high school and they're heading to colleges across the country, across the world, even. And something I feel very strongly about is making the most of your undergraduate experience. I've seen too many people, too many friends that waste it or don't utilize it correctly. And I'm hoping that you can give some insight into how to do it correctly because I think that you're absolutely killing it. So, uh, if
Well,
you
thank you.
could, yes, absolutely. So, if you could just take a moment, I'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself and your background and your goals because you're still currently an undergraduate. So, can you tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, always a hard question to answer. So, giving a little bit of my background, I'm a military brat, but I did grow up in Louisiana. So, I'm not a Texas native. However, I
Right.
have been here for about 6 years. Last month, actually, made 6 years for myself and my family. Currently, though, I am at Texas State University. Go Bobcats. We love
Go
that
Bobcats.
university so much. And I am pursuing a bachelor's in public relations with a minor in leadership studies. And so for me, my goals really include being a phenomenal, outstanding, incredibly successful PR professional. And I know the route to that is going to it could look very different, could be many different things. Ideally, for me, I think I want to work with either an entity or organization or an individual whose work ethic, whose motivations, whose work I believe in wholeheartedly, and really just working with them to connect with their publics in a way that makes sense, in a way that makes them feel authentic and real. I think is wildly important for me, and I've discovered, I would say, over the past year that that is probably a foundational element. I need to believe in
Hmm.
whoever I'm working with or for in order to be successful. So to get there, because I'm entering my senior year, that's goal number one. Get through this last year, walk across that stage,
Yeah.
celebrate with my friends and my family, and then really just get started.
That's incredible. You've got a great journey, a great goal, and you're going to get there because you're doing some incredible things, which we're going to get into in just a moment. But I want to start with academics, right? We go to college for an academic purpose. And so I'd love to get kind of your thoughts on how you approach academics throughout your first 3 years of undergraduate. Are we trying to get the best grades possible? Are we trying to make the most of the work that we're doing in our classes? Are we trying to build a portfolio? How have you approached academics?
So for me, I think this is my second time at a four-year institution. So the first time I had no idea what I was doing, and if I'm being 100% honest, I just was not ready to go at that time. Fresh out of
Right.
high school, I really wasn't ready to go, and it did not go well. And along the way, I ended up doing some cosmetology things, and then I did some medical assistant things, and then I found my way back into a four-year. And I think that experience or those experiences have really led me to, while I do highly value getting really good grades in my classes, I also value the courses and the professors who give you more of a real world experience and let you have those out of classroom opportunities or ways to bring the knowledge in the classroom into the real world and tie them together. So, I do strive for, I'm going to study, I'm going to read the book, I'm going to go through the notes, I'm going to try my best on all of my quizzes, finals, exams, papers, whatever it is. But
Right.
I also really feel like with academics, there's so much more than just the grade. And I do feel as though any college student, especially one that wants to be successful moving beyond college, there's those outside pieces of what involvement are you doing? What does the extracurricular look like? How are you connecting with the resources? And I refer to my classmates, my professors, professionals that they bring into the classrooms. Those are all resources for me to learn from, for me to hone my skills, for me to gain extra knowledge that, yeah, sure, I can get from a book, but it's so different from this book that may or may not have been written in the last few years to a real working professional, a real professor who's dealing with real students in real time, who's also 9 times out of 10, our professors are doing work outside of just teaching us. And so I find them incredibly valuable to sit down and have those conversations. And then working with classmates like myself, who, though we're all pursuing the same degree plan, they have so many different insights and so many different lanes that and lenses that they look through that makes me really encouraged and excited to speak with them, and to really just understand how vast, and for me specifically, PR and comms in general is huge. It's humongous. It's vast. There's so many different lanes of it. So I think boiling that down to the college experience, my approach is really focus on the grades, but also focus on how I can round out and shape myself and position myself with all of the skills that maybe are not necessarily book work. That means the public speaking piece, that means the networking piece, that means those writing skills where, we're doing press releases, we're doing news releases, I've done some blog writing, we're doing a lot of different things. Honing in some social media stuff, all kinds of things I think are very important. And I'm very intentional about what organizations I want to devote my time to, but I don't just focus on the ones at my college either. So me living in Austin, Texas, I have a unique opportunity where my school is located in San Marcos. So there's an entire networking community there, but then
Yeah.
there's one here in Austin. And so I've done some work as a Texas Civic Ambassador, for example, with UT Austin. I was able to engage with that community, though that isn't my school. That's an entirely new community that I have connections with and I've built an experience with that I think kind of runs alongside of what I'm learning in college to give
Right.
me really a well-rounded collegiate experience. Um, I guess would be my answer. So grades, yes, but there's definitely more than just the grades.
Right. I totally agree. And exactly where I would have gone in this conversation. I recently gave a lecture at Texas State, and a big piece of my talk was y'all have got to make the most of this project. I was speaking to capstone students that were working on their final projects before they graduate. And, it's one thing to treat it as an assignment, but why don't you treat it like it's your job? And what kind of product are you going to get? You're going to get a different product is the answer. If you treat it like a school assignment, it's going to be mediocre at best. But if
Mhm.
you treat it like it's your job, like your life is on the line, you're going to get a different product, right? And so treating your school assignments, your school projects, like this is go time. I'm working right now. You're going to get a different product, and it's not all about the product. For me, it's about the experience. And I have the experience of building a successful campaign. It was the top project in my class and it was fully applicable. The company actually turned around and applied it. That is incredibly valuable in how you can talk about in an interview, which is when it's go time, right? So I definitely agree. Grades are important, but make it the most out of your academic experience with treating your assignments like it's go time, like it's real world time. How have you done that, or is this just kind of a theory that I have?
No, no, no. I think you're right on target. I actually recently, one of my professors this semester nominated me for an incredible opportunity to join a competition team to do a PR campaign. And I don't know how much I can share about it. I will say, though, that everything went well, and I'm very excited
Yes,
about the opportunity, if that gives you any hint.
yes,
But that that competition team is a real world thing. So we will be competing with a real world client. We will be building a campaign and working through what that looks like. And I
incredible.
think for me, that is going to be, as you said in an interview, key for me to bring up. And I'm going to be excited about it, but it's also going to set me apart from so many other candidates, right? There's not going to
Right,
be that many candidates coming into the room saying, hey, I was selected to join this team. This is what I did. This is how it played out. If we place, if we don't place, regardless, it is still very much so a real world experience that I think gives me a whole new outlook on the college experience and a whole look on just my senior year in general. Now I'm extremely excited to get there, which we're just now getting out for our little summer
Yeah.
break. But now I'm looking forward to, I get to do this thing and get to take all of this knowledge that I've learned to date and actually go apply it and have other PR professionals review it, look over it, and see how well I do. Am I on target? Am I off target? How did my team do? How did we collaborate? What does this process look like? Which is a lot of what I'll be doing in my career.
Right.
And so I feel like,
Oh,
as you said, you're right on the money with it. It's really, how can you treat the work that we're doing right now as if it is absolutely so real? Because
right.
and I feel like it shapes your approach to work, especially in the beginning. Say I start off all of college, it's just an assignment, it's just an assignment, it's just an assignment. And I don't actually treat it as though, nope, this could be something that my job could be dependent upon. Those
Hmm.
first few years in my career, the first couple assignments, sure, I'm going to be gung ho, you're going to get my best. But at some point, I've put myself in this rhythm, in this routine of, it's not that serious. It's
Yeah.
just this, or it's just that. And you're not going to get my best effort. If I'm approaching it with, it's just this, or it's just that, it's not my best work. As you said, it is going to be mediocre versus, okay, I'm doing this thing. These are my targets I need to hit. This is the goal. Let's move forward. Let's see if that was actually at work and I had to turn this in, especially the ones that are on a really tight deadline or time crunch. I think those
Right.
are the ones that push me and stretch me the most. One of my final exams was like that. We had time, but you needed to go through, read all the things, get this press release done. It needed to be all AP style. Everything needs to be correct. You need to check punctuation, usage, grammar, all those things, which is very real world. So for me, I took it very serious. My approach was, let me look through it. Let me pull out all the pieces that I need, put them all together, reread again, take my eyes off of it for a second, put my eyes back on it, and then let's see where we're at from there. So stuff like that is, I think, incredibly unique. And if you can
Right.
find those opportunities, and as a student, especially in undergrad, put yourself in the mind space to take it a bit more seriously than just your average, oh, run of the mill, this is just a busy work kind of thing, I think helps you train your mindset to, okay, even if this isn't the thing I love most, if this isn't something that I'm wildly excited or passionate about, this is still very much so a part of the job. So I need to train my mindset and train that skill of, I'm going to take everything that comes to me as serious as I possibly can, so that I'm making sure I'm consistently giving out the best effort. And I think that that can be seen as a college student. Your professors start to see that. You do start to see the difference between students who are performing one way and students who are performing a different way. And I'm quite sure,
Definitely.
though I don't grade our work, I'm quite sure our professors can tell which students had a little bit more of a serious lens on and were a little bit more dedicated to the work that they were putting out, versus students who are like, I just got to check this box and I have to
Right.
just get this submitted. So I think you're right on the money with that.
Right. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And so let's jump into a little bit of the fun stuff in the sense of community. And I think that you're going to have a really interesting perspective on this because you jumped into the 4-year plan twice. And so maybe you approached it a little bit differently first to second time. But anyways, what are your thoughts on being involved and joining a community, especially in those first couple of years? I found it to be very important, but I'd love to hear what you have to say on that.
I agree. I think it is incredibly, insanely, ridiculously important to build your community. And I would say as quickly as possible. So, in
Definitely.
my first experience at college, I wasn't as focused on building community. I wasn't as focused on being connected. And for being honest, I really wasn't focused on my grades or any of that. I was just there because I didn't want to be the only one left at home.
Mhm.
And when I got there, I went to the classes, and of course, you see the same faces, especially that freshman year. You can see some of the same faces. Now, granted, the freshman classes are humongous, so
Right.
it can be also a little daunting. But I think I didn't have a intentionality about, where do I fit, right? Who are my people? Where do I fit? Who are the people I need to stay connected with? I wasn't big on connecting with my professors or going to a lot of events. I was really going through the motions of, okay, I'm a college student, I'm going to be in my dorm, then I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to class, and then I'm going to go to my next class, maybe back to my dorm. And I had a couple of friends, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't say that I built a community that was focused and centered around all of us being successful, pushing me in the right ways, especially when I needed it, when I got lazy or when I felt overwhelmed, which I think is a large part of the freshman experience. At least it was for me. The feeling of being
Sure.
overwhelmed, out of my depth, not fitting in, not knowing how to navigate. College is way different from high school. And
Right.
I don't know that I was necessarily the most prepared for how different it would be. I knew what I
Right.
was told, but I don't think I, until you're there, I just don't think you really know exactly how different it is. And that I think played a huge part in why I wasn't successful. And a lot of it was on me. Do not get me wrong.
Sure.
I would venture to say all of the most of it was on me. And then there was a piece where if I would have had a certain kind of support and community system around me, I think I would have been more successful. This time around, and I'm actually a transfer student, so I began at Austin Community College. And while I was there, the very first thing I did my first semester, I wanted to figure out what my goals were going to be for the semester. Obviously, it's my first semester back. I'd been awarded a scholarship at that time unexpectedly, which pushed me to go back. I just
Right.
changed my major. So originally I was a biology major until I discovered that I did not like science. I was in love with the idea of being a doctor. And I realized that I did not want to do any of the things that it would take to become a doctor. And a
Sure.
friend of mine actually had suggested public relations to me maybe a year or so prior to me going to ACC. And so I pondered on it and I started the comm studies program there, which I ended up absolutely loving. I thought it was incredibly amazing. But that
Yeah.
first semester I came in and I found the Student Government Association and I immediately became involved. I became a constituency senator for the African American population. And that was like my first introduction into this is what my ACC community is going to look like. From there,
Yeah.
I shifted into the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society. So that was another group that I had. All of these students here are also focused on academics. They're focused on being successful. How can we help? How can we give back? And then there were so many other organizations, the Honor Student Organization. We have Brass that we're just connected with. And I think having all of those and having people keeping an eye on me, not to say in a way where, oh, they're watching, you're going to be in trouble, but more so like, hey, if you're falling off a little bit, I see you're falling off. Are you okay? How can I help? What do you need? I think kept me more on my toes than the first time. And then everybody I was surrounded around was doing the same thing. You're wanting
Yeah.
to build your college experience. You're going to class. You're getting the grades. You're connecting. You're not only are you in the classes, but you're worried about what is the overall population here? How are our students doing, especially with SGA? How are our students doing? Are they good? Are they not good? If they are not good, why are they not good? So it gave
Right.
me, I guess, more of a passion to do work that I felt was fulfilling, excuse me,
Hmm.
alongside my collegiate studies. And so at Texas State, I've done the same thing. As soon as I came in my first semester, I went looking for which organizations are PR communication centric. What are they doing? What have they been doing? I found Bobcat Promotions, which is Texas State's student-led PR firm that does work with Texas State clientele. So I've
Hmm.
been in that group since my first semester, and really I've done some blog writing for two different type of events or things that we had going on. I had the opportunity to write a press release for another organization outside of Texas State that we were working with. And then the students in that group, we all come from different majors. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to see how things play out. We have some who are doing theater. And so there's opportunities to go and see the theater and then do a feature story about that, which I think is really cool.
Right.
But having that community and meeting with these students and being around these students, and then me being more intentional this time around about connecting with my professors and saying, hey, I need help with this, or do you have suggestions with this? Or, this is what I want to do. This is what I see for myself in the future. How can I get there? What would your advice be to me to get there? And really listening to them, they become a part of my community. So many of my professors now, I get those emails. Hey, if you need anything, please come see us. If you're applying for something, if you need a letter of recommendation, if you need, a reference or whatever it is, let us know because we want to help you be successful. We've seen your work in the classroom. Let us join that community, that network for you. Let's see what we can do to help who we know. And like I said, one of my professors in an after class conversation, she felt as though what she'd received from me in that conversation, I would be a good candidate for this opportunity and nominated my name. I had no idea, no idea
Right.
what this opportunity was about until I got the email. And it's things like that in those instances and having those sort of people so open and willing to help me along the way that I think is so important about me having that community. And that's not for me taking away from because I haven't addressed even the family piece. My family is also a large part of that. So whereas
Oh,
they are not
sure.
at college with me, they're not at Texas State, they weren't necessarily at ACC, but every step along the way, my parents are, hey, how's the semester going? How are grades looking? Are you stressed about a class? Let's talk about it. Let's get some of that weight off your shoulder. Let's clear the air, give you a minute to go through kind of what you're feeling. And then let's talk about how we get past it. Let's talk about how we move forward. What do you need from us? And I don't think I would be successful without that. I really don't. I don't think I'd be successful without having people in my corner who allow me to have my moment where maybe I'm not at my highest point and maybe I am stressed or I'm overwhelmed or I'm exhausted with work. Because I do work full time. I go to school full time. I'm a parent. So
Wow.
there's a lot of different things on my plate.
Yeah.
But having that community that's just so willing to encourage me and pour into me, I just don't think I'd be successful without it. I really don't. So I think
Yeah.
it should be said to every student. It is for every student to go and find that community. And it looks different, right? Because there are organizations on campus that have nothing to do with anything academic. And I think those are wildly important as well. You
Yeah.
should absolutely have those things that just nurture the pieces of you that aren't necessarily academic. If you love, I don't know, Pokemon, if you love chocolate, if you love shopping, if you love all these things, there are other students on campus who love the things that you love. So
Right.
finding those communities, I think, is just wildly important.
Yeah, you've got an incredible journey in the community building aspect of this, and I love the different ways that you've done it. Right, and I love that you said it looks different for everybody. Right, because I did it through fraternity, and a lot of people do it through sorority and as well, and those are incredible experiences as well. Mine is very unique in how I approached it. I approached it as kind of how we were talking earlier. This is professional experience. When I graduated from college, I was able to say, yeah, I've managed a budget of $50,000. Yeah, I've managed a group of men. I've managed a community, and that was incredibly powerful and set me apart and led me to serve on the national board of directors, where I was approving multi-million-dollar budgets at 22 years old. And making decisions about litigation and all those those other things that come with fraternity, uh, and then also the long term trajectory of the fraternity. I say all that because you don't think of fraternity sorority as these experiences that can be translated into professional, and it's one of the key things that has set me apart in the interviews that I've been on. Because not a lot of young people can say that they've sat on a national board of directors or board of trustees. And so, yeah, those experiences can be extremely valuable if you approach them in a way that makes sense for your goals. And I think that you've done that, which is incredible. Another thing that you spoke about in the community section was a lot of your networking, which I think is really powerful. And also for the listeners, that's how we met. Celia
Mhm.
reached out to me on LinkedIn after I spoke at Texas State and wanted a phone call. And we had a great phone call. And then it translated into, hey, I think you're killing it. You should come on my podcast. And so those types of relationships only build from conversations, from questions, and just putting yourself out there. What do you have to lose, really?
Right.
If it's 30 minutes of bad advice, that's a small price to pay if there's a nugget of gold in that conversation. And then I
Right.
love your continuous go back to you need to utilize your professors. I've utilized my professors even after graduation. Like I said, I went and talked to a class at Texas State that came from 4 years out of college. I reached out to a professor of mine and said, "Hey, I'd love to come speak." And she remembered who I was, and then also said that
Mhm.
she'd love to have me. And then I also did the same thing at a local university through my graduate program. Your professors want to help you, but you
Mhm.
have to go out and utilize them. And so, such incredible points. Did anything pop into your head as I was on that spiel?
Yeah, the networking piece.
Yeah,
Networking, networking, networking. I am a huge advocate for building your network, and I understand why people shy away from it. I understand it can be very daunting. It can be
right.
very intimidating. But I think if you can get yourself to a point where you can push past all of that and really just go out there and go for it, I think is wildly important. And for me, I found there's been very, very few times, I could probably count on one hand how many times people maybe weren't as open or receptive to me trying to reach out, but more and over in abundance have people been like, oh my gosh, you're a student. Where are you studying at? What are your goals? Yes, let's talk. I'd love to meet with you. Let's do coffee. Let's go to lunch. Let's hop on a Zoom. However you need to do it. Do I need to call you? What is it? And they are willing and so wanting to give out this
Yeah.
information and these nuggets of wisdom to anybody who's willing to ask the question. And often I found just saying, hey, I'm a student from Texas State. I really am just looking for advice. I'm going into my senior year, and I just want to make sure I understand what this field looks like before I get there. What would you say to me if you were knowing that where I am, where I'm going, what advice do you have for me? And even if it's you should do this and this, or if it's, hey, don't do this because I did this and this is how this experience went, I take both, right? Because I feel like it's wildly critical to know those pitfalls. If I can learn from somebody else's mistake and not go down that path and have to dig myself back out, much rather would do it that way than to go down that road and really have to crawl back from it and find my way back and kind of resurface. And then going to events, like I've connected with some organizations here, and I've just gone to events, where they're just professionals in the room who they're all discussing different things and they're doing a certain kind of work. I went to a freelance event recently with Freelance Austin. And I am not a freelancer right now.
Right.
But as I explained to the ladies in the group, I'm here to understand how you all are successful at freelancing, because I do think that's something I would want to do in the future. And I understand it can be difficult to get started and it can be difficult to maintain, but you ladies have found a way to do both of those things. You're happy. It works for yourself. It works for your family. You're doing work that you like. You're setting a lot of your own terms with this work. I think is incredibly cool.
Right.
And so even just sharing, hey, I'm just a student and I'm really just here to learn. Each one of those ladies, yes, absolutely. We love that you're here. Ask us all of the questions. And they would share things and I would raise my hand and say, hey, can I ask a question here? They're like, yes. What is the question? And I would ask a question, how do you manage your clientele? How do you balance your work life? How do you, stay true to your priorities and what your commitments are in your family? But you're also doing this work that's incredible and amazing. And you're working with people that you believe in. And they're, in a group of, I would say maybe there were about 10 of us all total at that specific meeting. I'm getting so many different answers to the same question. And I've got my notebook. I'm writing things down because I'm one of those people who I need to write down little nuggets of all of what I'm learning because I'll forget because I'm all excited about what I'm hearing. And I just think it's wildly important. And I had the great pleasure of having a professor this semester who was very intentional about talking to myself and my class about networking and brought different people into class to address the class and to address different topics of how to find a job, how to network, how to do that first reach out. I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn.
Yes.
I know everybody is not, but I absolutely love LinkedIn. I think it is one of the most incredible platforms.
Yes.
And I just have a lot of fun with it. But I think that's also a really great way to, if you're not necessarily at the point where person to person, you're comfortable doing the walk up and having that conversation, LinkedIn is a great way to do that. I feel like it gives you a little bit of security in, okay, I can just send a message. They may or may not respond, and that's completely fine. Some people may not respond to your message, but they may still connect with you. And then as you start sharing things about your journey, you have people liking things and they may reach out and message you after the fact. Hey, I just saw that you did this really good thing. Let's talk about that. Or, hey, so-and-so that I also know. And if you know them and they think you're great, then I think you're great automatically.
Right.
And so I just networking. And I think as soon as you can start doing that, you should. I'm a huge advocate for start getting that LinkedIn up immediately. Start going to events and keeping track of where you're going, who you're talking to, follow up with these people because you may not see them necessarily in the next week or so, right? You may go to an event this month and you don't see them for 2 months, right? They may forget in the time frame unless you're, hey, I just want to connect with you here. We met at X event last week. Just want to stay connected so I can keep up with what you're doing. And, maybe if I need advice in the future, we can meet up. Those people are 9 times out of 10 and say, yes, okay, cool. And then the next time you see them, jog their memory and they're happy to help, happy to introduce you to other people, which I think is the best part about networking. If you can find the right people, there are a lot of people who just want to start sharing you with other people.
Yeah.
There's nothing else for you to do at that point.
That's awesome.
Happy to say, hey, I know you. Let me introduce you to this next person. And now your network is growing and growing and growing.
Right. Yeah, I love every piece of that. And the biggest thing is that people want to help. I
Mhm.
mean, if they have that extra time, they want to help the next generation of professionals. There's no reason for us not to. I
Right.
found that that's even more true with young professionals, but I think it's true for some older professionals as well. And before I get into my final piece of advice from you, I want to
Mhm.
ask one last question because I think that you've done incredibly well in this area, and that is career planning. And but you took career planning a step further in the sense of, you didn't get a job at Pluckers for college. You got a job
Mhm.
in communications while you're a
Mhm.
student in college because that's going to feed your resume. Can you just talk a little bit about why that's so important? And I'm not downgrading people that get jobs to pay the bill. I mean, I totally get that. But if there's an opportunity that can benefit your future, you need to do that. Can you talk a little bit about that before we get into our final piece of
Absolutely.
advice?
Absolutely. I do think I'm super proud of that. I, I have been the college student who just had the job, just
Right.
had a job,
It
and
has
that's
to
what I had
happen.
available to me. And it happens so often. I think we know this about our college students, but I had a unique opportunity while I was at ACC. I'd actually gone or attended a Zoom meeting with the former chancellor of the college, and we were just addressing different things about the college. And I was there as a representative from the SGA to talk about the student experience and how students were feeling and student opinion about certain topics. And I'd done a survey and I brought forth all of that information. At that specific meeting, there were two ladies from the Office of College Relations and Marketing that I work for now. They were there and we connected. They learned that I was studying for communication studies, and they asked me would I ever be interested in an internship. And this was not something that I don't think I'd really thought hard about at that point. But when they brought it up to me and we talked through it a little bit, I said, okay. I said, yeah, I think I'd be interested in it. And the next day I got an email, hey, here's the internship application. Look through it, see what you think, go through the motions, let us know. I went ahead and applied for it. It seemed like a really great opportunity. And what they were offering me essentially was to be an intern within that department with a focus on the communications piece. And there's so many areas that fall under there. So that department includes media relations, it includes social media, it includes so many other pieces, right? So I come in and I was working under the direction of Jessica Vest, she is an absolutely amazing and incredible woman at ACC. And I am
Nice.
so honored and so grateful to have ever met her. Absolutely love her. So shout out to her. And Brett Lee, which equally incredible. Love them both. And they brought me in and I was able to do some social media things. I was able to work with our marketing team. We had some focus groups that we had centered around some messaging that ACC was considering. And so I got to organize some of that, work with students about, hey, do you want to participate in this focus group? Great, let's see how we can get you connected, which I had never done organizing like that at that point. So that was a unique experience for me. I also got to speak at the grand opening for the Highland campus. They let me,
Hmm.
or they asked me to MC the event. So I was able to get up there and really introduce the chancellor. I was extremely nervous, but it was an incredible
So good.
experience. And all the staff was there cheering me on, and I knew a lot of the staff and faculty that was there, so it made me really happy, really comfortable. I have pictures of that. It's still a highlight of my entire collegiate journey. But I
Yes.
stayed on with that team as an intern for, I want to say, officially about a year or so. And from my experience there, I was working in another job. I had completed my associates. I actually completed 2 associates with ACC, and I was in the process of wanting to transfer over to finish out my bachelor's.
Sure.
And while I was at a previous job, and it was getting to the point where I realized it was about time for me to maybe make a change as far as my employer was concerned. I think I'd learned all that I could learn at that point, and I'd
Yeah.
gotten what I felt like I could get. And I'm a huge advocate of not being stagnant. So if I'm at a point where I don't feel like I'm growing anymore, I don't feel like this is serving me or pouring into me, it is time to move or at least start considering moving.
Sure.
Jessica reached out to me, got an email, hey, and we talked about them potentially adding a position to the department. I think a year and a half prior to her reaching out. Hey, we've added this position. If you're still interested, take a look. So I looked at the position. It was everything that we discussed. And I just had that gut feeling of, you know what, this would be really good for me. And I think this will position me really well to be here, especially throughout me finishing college, to get these skills. These are incredible people doing incredible work. They've been in their positions for a while, and I know they're easy to talk to. I've worked with them before. And if I'm clear and honest about, hey, I love this job and I also would love opportunity here, or I would love to shadow here, or just understand why you do what you do and how you do what you do, I think could be really incredible. Interviews went well and I ended up getting the position. And so now I am a member of the Office of College Relations and Marketing, which is so cool to see. There's marketing, we have ACC TV in there, we
Right.
have so many different pieces, right? We have events that we do that I'm able to go to and help out with. I get to see everything from the copywriting to the messaging that goes out, what that process looks like. I'm in the room when there are conversations being had about how we're going to push certain events and things like that. And where I may not necessarily contribute in the same way as others, my management team does a really good job of saying, hey, you still have a voice in this room. You still have a
Right.
voice in this room, especially when it comes to the student experience. So I get a lot of questions about, how would you feel about this? You were a student here at ACC. Tell us how you feel about this. And I'm always very honest in my feedback. And so me being in that environment, me having that experience, me building those relationships with those women and that entire team at ACC, and especially in that department, I think is only going to help me in the future, because you're not going to have a lot of students graduating from college saying, hey, I've worked in communications before and this is what I did. I've had this experience. I was able to help out with this, that, and the third project. And for me, it's a lot of positioning. I think I'm very, very intentional about how I position myself and what opportunities I'm taking on that align with my future. While I
Yeah.
do understand, and as we stated before, having a job because you need a job, I 100% understand. I've
Right.
been there before. And if it comes to, I need to support my family and this is what I have available to me, I would be doing the same thing.
Sure.
However, I had this opportunity to be able to support my family in a position that also supports my future goals and career. And I think that that's really, really unique. And if any student that finds that, or the opportunity finds them, I would say jump on it, take it, go with
Yes.
it. There's going to be so many things that you can learn. And especially if you have an incredible leadership team who is open to the questions, open to giving you those answers, open to unique opportunities. And we have a lot of conversation about, I want to make sure in this position you're getting what you need because we understand where you're going. That's
Hmm.
hard to find. And having an employer who is absolutely dedicated to, let's make sure that, yes, you're serving us, but how can we serve you? How
Yeah.
can we help you along the way? How can we push you forward? I think it's just wildly incredible. So I'm entirely 100% grateful and so honored to be a part of that team and to have that experience. I think it really does set you apart. It is very unique. So I
Right.
would, like I said, to any student, if that ever comes your way, and even if it is an internship, because I have seen and have heard and do often hear, oh, it's just an internship. It's only for X amount of time. I didn't expect from my internship to be given an
Right.
opportunity to be employed. I
Right.
That was not my expectation. I thought it was a great opportunity. I also knew that it was a temporary thing
Right.
and that is the nature of interning. But from me treating, as we said earlier, treating my internship like it was absolutely so real and so critical, they saw my work ethic. They saw my devotion to what I was doing and how I work and what I do and the things that I'm really great at. And from there, they saw an opportunity to bring me in as a team member and actually bring me in as a full-time employee. So it's all about how you approach it. If you approach it like it's just a short-term thing and this is all it's going to be right now, you may get what you're kind of
Right.
putting out there. If you approach
Right.
it different and say, you know what, this could be something, let me approach it in that manner, it may turn out exactly that way as well. So I think it's really whatever you put in is kind of what you get out. Um, and I would say I would value any internship opportunity.
Right.
You're connected with so many people and you're learning so much, and you just never know how it plays out. People don't forget. People do not forget. It may, like I said, there was some time in between when it ended to when I was employed.
Yeah.
But regardless, in that time frame, unbeknownst to me, they were thinking through, we've got this coming up. We think she'd be great. We think she'd be great. We think she'd be great. And rare is it that you have an employer reach out to you and say, hey, this is posted. I think you'd be great for it. If you're interested, we'd love to have you apply.
Yeah.
So if you can
That's
ever
so
set
good.
yourself up for that, it's important.
Yeah, so so good. I love everything about what you just said. But as we're running out of time, can you give us that final piece of advice for an undergraduate out there entering their career for the first time?
Yes, absolutely. So, as I love to call her, a wise philosopher once said, just keep swimming.
Just
And
keep
we just
swimming.
love her. We love her. And of course, I watch a lot of those kinds of movies right now with my kids.
Right.
But and overall, what I feel like that says to me is the path to success is not necessarily divinely concrete and designed a specific way for any one person. I think there's going to be a lot of times where you may be rerouted, right? I started as a biology major, then I went cosmetology, then I did medical assisting, and now I'm here. And I feel like I finally found a path that works for me. So
Right.
I think for any student, if you're in a position where you're feeling some of that rerouting and there's a need to pivot, I think embracing that and not resisting it and seeing it for what it is and what it could be is going to be wildly helpful to you. And if you can embrace and start to hone and master the art of learning how to pivot, learning how to adapt, learning how to change and or make changes or allow change to happen, I think is really just going to push you forward and propel you in all of the right ways. And I think once you make those changes, you'll end up on a journey that you feel is uniquely designed for you and designed for you alone. And I would just
Yes.
say, see where that path takes you from there, accept it, see where you get, and oftentimes I think you'll be surprised on where it leads.
Ah, so good. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming
Absolutely.
on the show. But before we go, if people want to learn more about you, where should they go?
Absolutely. They can see me on LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn, Celia M. Parker. I also have a link tree. So it's just the link tree, traditional URL/PR with Parker. I'm on Instagram as PR with Parker. So really anywhere, I'm always open for anybody reaching out. I love to connect with students like myself. So if there's any questions or anything, I am completely an open book and an open door. So please, sure, connect with me.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you to the listeners for listening because we are going to continue to learn how to adult together. Thank you so much to Celia for coming on the show and helping us all learn how to adult. To stay up to date on all things How to Adult, make sure that you follow at How to Adult TW on Instagram and Facebook. And remember, we're going to learn how to adult together. See you next time.